Hi there! Today is another in the series of 12 days of painting that I'm doing, and this is a great way to make some very wonderful little paintings for family or friends that don't take a really long time and only take 3 colors. So let's get started. Okay, I'm going to put out some color on my palette here, and I'm going to start with Benzimidazolone Yellow. Everything is in your description, so you'll be able to find what you need. Quin Magenta. Let's put a little Quin Magenta out. Actually, we're going to need more Quin Magenta. And a little Phthalo Blue. You never need too much Phthalo Blue because it's so strong. We'll have some Titanium White and some glazing liquid. This keeps the paint wet and workable. It may look white on the camera there, but it actually dries really, really clear. Okay, the 2 brushes that I'm using today is a number 10 round and a number 6 round. Those are both in your description. I'm just cleaning this off here. Just want to make sure they're not wet. I just dip them in the water and then dry them off. Okay, we're going to have a beautiful pink sky. So I'm going to start with Quin Magenta, glazing liquid, and I'm just going to lay that down. Titanium White, really pretty. Just get that gorgeous pink sky going. Add a little tiny bit of that Hansa Yellow, more Titanium White, a little bit more Quin Magenta, a little glazing liquid. It's kind of like cooking. Little of this, little of that. Just keep going across the canvas like that. And the way that I am just blending those colors back and forth. Let's have a little bit more Quin Magenta here in the middle. There we go. I'm going to have a little bit more Titanium White down here. I'm going down fairly far because I want a lot of sky. It's going to be a big sky painting. So we've got a nice pink sky going. I'm going to go a little bit darker up here just so we have a little contrast. There we go. Okay, that's just how hard that is. Now I am going to rinse my brush, dry it off, and now we're going to paint some really nice rolling hills here. Just dry my brush off. Little Hansa Yellow. Tiny bit of that phthalo. Doesn't take much. That stuff is so strong. I want a fairly amount of green. I want a big amount of green because I want to play with these colors. So get a kind of a nice big juicy green going there. Don't want too much on my brush. So my brush is kind of dry. I'm going to take this green and I'm going to actually show you from the side. So I'm going to put this green and I'm just going to let my brush roll. Just roll my brush. And so you'll see that that gives me a really pretty contour line there. Then I can come back, get a little more yellow. Just roll that brush. Let the paint blend right on the canvas. Let's get a tiny bit more of that phthalo. We just want to make these really pretty transitions with the colors. A little bit of white here. Just rolling that brush and letting the brush do all the work. So you get these really pretty layers or blends rather of paint. Let's get a little bit more yellow here. Tiny bit of Titanium White in the foreground here. little bit more yellow. I'm going to grab a tiny bit of that phthalo, just a teeny weeny amount to get a bit darker green. I'm just going to put it right into that wet paint and see how it just makes its own blends there. Really pretty. Just let that paint do its thing. Yeah, so now we've got some really pretty hills. I'm going to go a little bit darker, and I'm telling you that phthalo is so strong. You just have to be really careful with it. So let's bring a little bit of that into some of the wet paint, just to give us some variation there, a little bit of dark, a tiny bit darker. There we go. Yeah, you just get some really gorgeous transitions there when you let the paint do the work. Let the paint do the work. Now I'm going to grab a tiny bit of Quin Magenta, and this is going to give me just a little bit brown green. It's going to muddy up my green a little bit. Let's get a little tiny bit more. And let's just drag a little bit of that dark green in here. Let's go a little bit darker. Just let that brush roll. Now we've got some really pretty rolling hills, and we didn't really do very much hard work. Okay, so now put away that number 10 brush, put it in the water, get out your number 6 round, and we're going to do a couple of really nice trees. A very simple painting, but the nice rolling hills here really give it a kind of a little bit of an extra something. So let's make a dark black. In order to make a dark black, we're going to use our 3 colors. We're going to start with a green. So we're going to take our phthalo and quite a bit of that Hansa. We'll make a dark green. That might not be dark enough. Let's put a little bit more phthalo in that. And now let's take some Quin Magenta, put that in there. We're going to need more Quin Magenta. Now we've got something that's a really nice dark greeny brown. It's almost black, but it's a really pretty color. It probably looks black on the camera. So, and you can see on the paper towel here that I just wiped my brush on, it is almost black, but it's kind of has a green undertone, which is perfect. So now we are going to put in a couple of trees. We're going to first put some really small ones back there. So let's get a little bit on our number 6, not too much, right on the tip of the number 6. And I'm just going to make these really small trees back here. And I'm just doing that. Let's look at it sideways. I'm just doing a couple of little touches, just tiny like that, so that I can kind of guesstimate where my trees would be, because we want them really small because they're way in the back. So let's make them really small back here. This one needs to be a little bit more to it. There. Don't get too fussy with them. They're way off in the distance, so you don't really need to be too fussy. Okay, let's do some in the middle ground here on this side. Same thing, I'm going to kind of make a couple of little dots here, and just to kind of get a feel for where these would be, like that. This one's leaning a little bit. That's all right, we'll fix that. But now I can just kind of flesh these guys out. And even though I'm going into that wet paint, that green wet paint underneath, it's okay. That's just fine. Just remember that trees are not solid objects. The trunk is, but the actual foliage of the tree is not solid, so leave a little bit of air. I say that every time we paint trees. I say, leave a little bit of air. You got to leave a little air. Okay, this tree here, give him a little help there, and a little bit on the trunk. Okay, so now we've got our background trees and our middle ground trees. Let's paint our foreground trees. And they're going to be right here. Got that nice dark greeny black. And I'm going to do the same thing, just kind of establish where that tree is going to be with a few little dots. That really, really helps. Let's make this one a little bit bigger. And then we'll have another one next to it, maybe here, a little bit shorter. And then a third one right here. There we go. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. Just build these trees up. These are kind of, I guess you could call them poplar trees. I'm not a botanist. That's what I always tell everyone when they ask me what kind of trees or plants. I'm not a botanist. I'm a painter. So don't ask me what kind of tree it is. I don't know. I'm going to make the trunk a little more substantial. And these are a little bit on the thinner side. They sort of look like poplars a little bit. They could be poplars. Just dabbing that paint. So if you look at from the side, you'll see I'm just dabbing. Let's give this one a trunk first. I'm just dabbing that paint. And really be cautious about how much you put down. You can always add more. But if you put too much down, it's really hard to come back from that. Okay, so we got a couple of trees. Let's do our last tree. Same thing, just touching that canvas with the brush. And getting that tree shape going. Okay, that looks pretty good. Well, that was a 12-minute painting. So that just goes to show you that you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours working on something. If you're making these little gifts for your family, you can do something pretty simply and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. So here is our finished painting. Our trees in the sort of green valley there with that really pretty Quin Magenta sky. Be sure that you join me next time in the next 12 Days of Painting video. And remember what I always say, keep painting.